9 o'clock. We'll call this regular meeting of the Coryell County Commissioners Court order at this time. Noting that all commissioners are the ones present. If you got an electronic device, I'd ask you to put it on silence at this time, please, and stand for a word of prayer. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for another wonderful day here in Coryell County. We continue to thank you for the many blessings that you bestow upon us. We ask that you place your hand of wisdom upon us. Give us your guidance, your direction, so that we may do the business of this county in the best consideration for its citizens. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
And join us in the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
We will open this morning's meeting with the public forum. Citizens may address the court on any matter other than matters concerning county personnel or matters under litigation. Each citizen will be allocated 5 minutes with a total time not to exceed 30 minutes. Is there anyone here that would like to address the court this morning? Yes, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy 2020. Let's do great things this year. I wasn't able to attend the last meeting, but I wanted to thank all of you for passing the sanctuary gun agenda item. This movement was started because we have a political party who is trying to take away our rights, and we want to know where our elected officials stand. So now that we have all of you on record, we just wanted to say thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the court this morning? Okay, seeing none, we will continue on. First item that we've got for action is the consent agenda. Please note under the consent agenda, we are missing one of the reports. Didn't get the one from the financial summary report from the county clerk's office. So if you will take A off of there, and we have the tax assessor collector's financial summary report for December and the county treasurer's report for November. We've got a motion to accept B and C on the consent agenda from Commissioner Moore, second from Commissioner Matthews. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is consider the minutes for Commissioners Court meeting on December 19th, 2019. Those were included in your packet.
Motion to approve, Judge.
We have a motion from Commissioner Jones.
Second.
A second from Commissioner Matthews. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. Item number 7, consider the minutes for the Commissioners Court meeting held on December 23rd, 2019. Those, I believe, were in your packet.
Motion to approve.
We've got a motion from Commissioner Matthews.
Second.
A second from Commissioner Ashby. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. Item number 8, the Road and Bridge report, Mr. Latham.
Road and Bridge Summary, Judge, for the month of December, we have 27 pending work orders and completed 12 during the month of December, a little bit lower than normal. Slow time of the year for us.
Yeah.
We've been working on Greenbrier and Slater. We've laid 11 roads during that period, laid and added rocks 10 locations, patched 10 roads, repaired shoulders on 267 and 196, cleaned ditches for 2 days, cleaned out 2 cattle guards, replaced CMPs for 17 days. I think that might be an inaccuracy there, Joe, we're gonna check that. Pushed fence lines for 6 days, mowed Harmon Road, 13 locations, we had the brush cutter working, removed 4 trees out of the roadway, moved concrete from the Foxworth Galvin lot, and built a parking lot at the post office. The truck has still been running to it for the most part.
not very busy December. Y'all were pretty darn productive with the not busy days that y'all had. And,
Well, between the holidays and everybody using their vacation time up for the first, it's slower than normal.
Well, I appreciate how well you got the Foxworth Galveston lot cleared off. For those of you that don't know, we were able to repurpose that concrete, didn't even cost us any hauling. City of Gatesville was using that for some, slope protection down at the, Leon River wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah, we hauled it very minimal, couple blocks here,
So-
we're back there, a few blocks, they took it and used it.
It was, I think that worked out, well for everyone involved, and,
There was one other landowner who took some down here too for a little bit of slope protection, so.
and then, I don't know about the rest of you, but I've had 2 or 3 people stop me and tell me that they appreciate that, the parking area over here by the post office. So, you know, with a minimal cost, again, providing another service for our citizens, so I thank y'all for the work y'all did there.
Several people hit me up this weekend about Slater, thanking me for the progress on it.
Yeah, been a little slow, but.
Yeah, but they're happy, so.
But we have, I can't remember, we hauled 800 and something semi-truckloads to Slater.
Right.
And we have a mile and a half left to haul, so all the 10 more we put in.
That's a long road, what,
Yeah.
7.2, 7.3 miles,
I can't remember all.
it's pretty long.
There's about, I believe about a mile and a half, mile and 5/16 somewhere there left, so. So we have another round of about 160 more loads to go, so. But there was no material under sections of that thing.
Yeah.
When we ripped it up, there was actually grass and black dirt in the lower spots that looked like the ditches were shaped and sealed over years ago, so. We're running over a little on the road base we're putting on it, but needs it.
Anything else, Mr. Latham? Not, I would accept the motion to approve his report.
So moved.
We have a motion from Commissioner Matthews, a second from Commissioner Moore. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Lakeman. Good work as always. Item number 9 is consider action to close, abandon, or vacate Shope Road. Included in your packet was a petition signed, by a number of citizens, that are wanting to, close, abandon, or vacate that road. I should have gotten out your packet, I didn't, but I've handed you an excerpt, from the Texas Transportation Code, chapter 251, covering section 251.08, which in fact is the closing, abandoning, and or vacating public roads. Their notice has been posted at both ends of that road, since October of last year, which, more than exceeds the statutory requirements of posting, which I believe is 20 days, is that correct, Mr. Latham?
28, isn't it?
28 days?
21 or 28.
One of those, but I think we well exceeded that notice. This particular, road, it's a single landowner on both sides of the road. It would not affect the ingress, egress, or trafficability of any other resident, to my understanding, is that correct?
I believe so, Judge, everything I've looked at, that the entirety of Shope Road is in, I believe in Shelville property, which he sold. The landowners, the turnaround was at their house, they didn't want people, they'd rather maintain it themselves and be able to close it off. Brandon, did you see the petition I've done for that, is that okay, I mean?
Yes.
Now, without knowing the court's decision on this, there is a court order that must, accompany, this action. And, if this is approved today, then that court order will be presented at the next meeting to be in compliance. It's gotta specify the amount, the length of the road, the road width, who it's being conveyed to, and then that, court order, and a couple of other things, and that court order then gets filed as part of the deed records, to transfer that land. Mr. Bell, is there anything from a legal standpoint you'd like to add?
I make a motion to, close, abandon, or vacate Shelf Road, with the petition signed starting October 18th, 2019.
We have a motion from Commissioner Matthews, a second from Commissioner Jones. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. I will draft up the court order. Mr. Bell, I'd ask that I could send that over to you for your review, and that will be presented on the 20th. What's our next meeting, the 20th of January meeting. Next item we've got is invitation to bid for crushed rock. These are the annual invitation or annual bids, historically that I've seen. I'm assuming they're annual. There's a series of them that should have gone out. So the first one is for bid for crushed rock. Mr. Layton, would you like to talk about these, in succession, just kind of run down, items number, 10 through 13? Just talk us through all those at one time. Is there anyone opposed to that? Okay.
No, the crushed rock is just, so we can have access to pits in locations we need them. Nothing fancy about it, actually do it a lot simpler than other ones, but sometimes getting the local quarries here to turn the pit in, difficult, have to chase them down. Basically, because they're all sometimes. And they, on these, most time they just give us their best price, so. The crushed rock, simple, hauling our aggregate out of our pits and out of the pits that we buy from. Let's see, the paving aggregate, is pretty cut and dry, it's our pea gravel, breakable rock, for our chip seal projects. Paving oil is pretty standard every year, we do that for CRS2, MC 800 type materials. Kind of did them all on the same day this year, Joe, so just be simpler, and all the openings and everything, so.
I for one appreciate that.
I'm gonna try to maintain it like that, keep them back on about this time of year every year.
Judge, motion to approve item 10 through 13 for bids on all paving aggregate, hauling, and crushed rock.
Second.
We've got a motion from Commissioner Jones, a second from Commissioner Ashby, and this is items number 10, 11, 12, and 13 on the agenda. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. Item number 14 on the agenda is considered court order 2020-01, a burn ban. Mr. Harrell, if you would please give us a quick update from the emergency management coordinator standpoint.
Morning, Judge, Commissioners. I talked to Chief Baden over the weekend and early this morning. He regretfully was unable to attend to explain what he had in mind. He's still recommending a burn ban, even though we did get some rain Friday night and early Saturday morning. He believes that even though we did get some rain, it's still, we still have a lot of dead vegetation out there. And over the next couple of days, we'll probably be drying out and be back in the same condition we were prior to Friday. We do have rain forecast for the week, Thursday, Friday. Not sure how much rain we're gonna get because of the weather patterns. Well, we were expecting a lot more rain, Friday than what we received. Like I said, Chief and the volunteer fire chiefs, have all recommended that we continue with the burn ban. And, if need be, we can do a temporary lift later on. So that's a recommendation as of now.
Does it make a motion, put the burn ban on? But you do have the authority, if it does rain Wednesday this week, you have the authority to take it off, that we do get
I can temporarily suspend.
We'll make it effective.
It'll be effective,
We'll
according
make
to
it
the,
effective in a future date, like Monday or something, just to give people notice.
I can make that.
Well, I mean, is it,
Yeah.
is
I
that
mean,
possible?
right now, the way the court order is written is it would be effective, at sunset today. If you're wanting to project that out, I mean, to give some notice, I can certainly, I mean, we can approve a different date in court today.
I'm gonna make the changes and bring it back. What day you want it?
I was just asking the question, since we did get some rain this weekend, and there's rain projected.
How about we set it for Wednesday, since that's the first day where the possibility of getting rain, which will be the, that's the 21st. No.
A week away, cause the 20th is next month.
Yeah,
I was thinking, we're gonna get some rain, if you think it's worth, I don't know, are burn patterns typically on the weekend? I mean, that's kinda what I would think, so it's either,
I'm earning this weekend.
we would put, I would think it would be, we either push it until next Monday to give, you know, our citizens the next weekend to burn, or we put it on now. I mean, I don't think there's gonna be a whole lot going on, but we do get the opportunity to say,
The 20th would be fine.
a news release, is that agreeable? So the motion would be to, approve court order number, 2020-01 with the change to 20 January being the effective date.
I second that, so, Mr. Jones.
We have a motion from Commissioner Jones, a second from Commissioner Matthews. Just to be clear, that is gonna be effective at sunset on the 20th of January, and this burn ban is for a period of 90 days. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries.
Thank you, Judge, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Harold, appreciate it. Item number 15, information update on pretrial services from Mr. Brett Anderson, Director of Indian Defense and Pretrial Services. I asked Mr. Anderson here this morning, as you recall, as part of, the FY 2020 budget, we in fact expanded, our pretrial services department, some new employee hires and, some management or maybe, some additional management and oversight on some mental health screening processes, as part of, the magistrate process, with, those unfortunate enough to be, apprehended for various reasons. So with that, Mr. Anderson, thank you for being here this morning. The floor is yours.
So, as everyone just said, gentlemen, he'd asked me, we gotta give you a little bit of updates, if we've added, positions. So currently, we have myself, Andy Webenmeyer as our senior bond officer, and Kendall Wade is currently our, receptionist, clerk, whatever we wanna call that position. This week, what we're gonna do is move Ms. Wade into a bond officer position. I've got, identified the person that'll take over as our clerk. The position that we're still working on, and this is one that, Mr. Belton, myself, and the JPs down south are trying real hard to, try to find, is somebody that would be able to work, down there as well. I've met with them, last month, and we're planning to meet again. I've had a couple of people with interest in that job, so we hope to have that filled here in the next month or so. So we'll be fully staffed, I think, within the next 60 days. With that, when we look at what we're doing, I hope we are starting to make, better relationships with our magistrates, both here, on this, side of the county and in our southern part. Our local JPs have we've worked with them to change some of the procedures, processes that they go through to help people get out on PR bond. We're working real closely with them to kind of transform that situation. Been able to work closely with Mr. Belt, the DA's office, Chief Deputy Atkins and Sheriff Williams. I've had a really good relationship with all those folks to try to make this process work a little better. We did some analysis. I'd asked the county clerk to look at our misdemeanors, and I've done the same thing in our felony courts to see where we're at with getting people to court. Because in the end, what we're wanting to do is be able to release people as soon as we can and keep the public safety at the utmost of our attention. Very few of we're looking at about 5 or 6% of those that we have, when we have recommended a release on bond, we have a very small percentage that reoffend before they go to court. What we also found is that some of the old practices of pretrial services was to release people and to have a zero reporting requirement. Almost across the board for our FTAs for fiscal year 19, we found that those who had zero reporting requirements were almost always the ones that failed to appear. Ms. Webenmeyer is a bond officer. That was what she was doing in the private sector for a long time, and she brought a lot of those practices into our office, and we have increased our communication with our released defendants, and that has increased the number of appearances and kept I think is keeping us being able to do that. So currently, we supervise 436 separate cases. That ends up being about 250 individuals with that process. So out of our office, we get a weekly call rate of about 50 calls every day, trying to keep up with our folks. So that is one of the reasons for the additional staff. The mental health process, I've worked closely with Sergeant Fox and Corporal Edwards out of the Sheriff's Office. Corporal Edwards in particular has just recently come up with some new documentation for us to utilize in releasing individuals that come in under that Sandra-Bland Act that need to be released on mental health issues. And that is something that we're just now starting to work through, and the ability for us to, as case managers, follow those individuals upon release through mental health process. That is the thing that we're probably working the hardest on right now. I'm trying to get my hands around that and understand it. I'll be honest with you, I'm still learning every day a lot about that process. I think in general everybody is. We're still, I think as a state, trying to figure out how that one works. Indigent defense, we're gonna take up in a minute this tech share agreement. I might just mention that real quickly while I'm up here, Jed. The tech share program is what we have utilized for years now to be able to track our indigent defense program. This keeps us in compliance with the state requirements of reporting and these kind of things. There are other options out there. If we were gonna look at that, what I would tell you is we can consider that for the next fiscal year. But the reality is this has kind of been where the state's been on this been in with this program, and we as a county entered into this program very early on in its conception, along with Bell County and some others. So there hadn't been any reason to change it. So really, we kind of just stuck with this program until we see something that would work more universally across the board. Right now, we don't have any programs that work from sheriff to us to courtroom. We don't have an overlap in any of our programs, and so really this program works as well as any that are out there. So I think it keeps us in compliance with the state, makes it happy, and I don't have a better recommendation at this time. So your questions, gentlemen? I don't. Judge asked me to give you some information. I don't know what you want, so let me.
Well, I'll throw a couple at you there. Mr.
Okay, go ahead,
Anderson.
Judge.
I mean, and this kind of leads into why this program is so important. I talked to Ms. Webenmeyer back in the June timeframe, I believe it was, and at that time she was telling me that she was managing about 320 cases. So in less than about a 6 month period, that's increased roughly 33%. My math is right, 30%.
Yes, sir.
Up to 430 cases. The number of individuals is important. The 250 those are 250 people that we do not have incarcerated. So we're not spending tax dollar funds, to pay for incarceration. And one of the points I do wanna stress that, Mr. Anderson did point out is that the people that we are operating under this program are not the violent crime people. It is, I mean, we're still, very adamant about, protecting, our citizens. But the reality of it is, the bond process is a process by which, it is designed to ensure that people show up for court. Currently, pretrial services, and again, this is a little bit dated from about 6 months ago, but they have an 80% show rate with the pretrial services program as it's being, utilized, currently. And again, I got that information from Mrs. Wibbenmeyer.
Yeah, and that's definitely trending upwards. I think we, with the new bonding, with the requirements for reporting, we're seeing that trend up higher even. So with that, there's, what we were trying to get ahead of, I think probably Mr. Bell had explained some of this to you previously. There've been several lawsuits in the state of Texas that are driving a lot of the bond reform. There's not legislation right now that makes requirements, but the kinds of things that we're doing and we're implementing, which includes doing a risk assessment, with our releases, being able to work with a magistrate to ensure the release, those kind of things. These are all practices that are being required by those lawsuits, so we're trying to get that implemented and as part of our procedure, so the expected legislation is going to follow those things. That's one of those that, with our county attorney, of course, we'll be making sure that we're compliant with that as best we can, but that's where we're headed, because we know that those lawsuits are gonna drive that train in that direction.
Is that appearance average, that appearance rate, is that above average or below, or you said it's increasing at the time, but?
Yeah, so, we are, at or above what surety bonds will get people to court on, so the surety bond release, of course, doesn't affect us, so we're ahead of them. They have that financial obligation, they're supposed to ensure appearance, but we're starting to trend above, even the surety bonds.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good, I mean, it's pretty impressive.
I have a question, please. I have a question, please, if it's allowed.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, you
Yes, ma'am.
said that there's an 80% rate that people are coming back to court. Is there any tax dollars being spent on the 20% that don't show up? And how does that equate?
So if you were to look at that, and I'd have to look at those numbers, I think that those were kind of off the cuff numbers, so I would not wanna, say that it was 80% in general. But, for those that do not show up, you're going to have a case that's going to be issued for the rest, so at that point, yes, I guess you would say that there are some dollars being spent, because they are gonna go back to Sheriff Williams, yeah.
Okay, sir, thank you.
Yes,
If
ma'am.
I could answer that question and part of the judge's question. The folks that we're getting, some of the folks that we're getting out on bond are those folks that cannot afford a surety bond. Right? These folks don't always have the most consistent housing arrangements. They don't always have the most consistent phone service. They don't always have the most consistent transportation. They don't always have the most consistent mental health. And so, when you look at the rate of appearance in court, you have to keep that in mind. And you also have to keep in mind that a surety bondsman, and they're all a little different, but most of the time, the first time you don't call in, or the first time you miss your payment, they file an affidavit to surrender principal on you, or something else to get off of your bond and get you rearrested and thrown back in jail.
Okay.
Because of a certain group of the people we deal with, especially in misdemeanor, which is what I'm talking about, I'm not talking about the felonies. We don't necessarily want these folks back in jail. We're, through all of this process, trying to help these folks, not only to stay out of jail, but stay out of the system completely, and to get the help that they need, so that they don't end up back in the system. And so, when you look at the appearance rates, you look at some of these other things, they're never gonna match the way the commercial bondsmen do it, because the commercial bondsmen just don't care. It's business for them. And we're trying to help folks, much more so than they are.
Okay.
And so, when you look at all the numbers, you look at the way things work, it's not always gonna line up, it's not always gonna look right on paper, but everybody in the process is working very hard to work together to try to, do the best we can with the folks that we're dealing with and the issues that they're dealing with.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Conlon.
Yes, ma'am.
To that end as well, to echo what Mr. Bell's saying, we're trying real hard in our office to make sure that we, in some of our conditions on bond, work with the magistrate to create situations that benefit these people before they've even gone to court. We're trying real hard to find those resources and get them into that, so that they're benefiting. Ms. Whitmire is fantastic at trying to find those resources. The more mental health we find, I think we're gonna find ourselves being much more connected with some of those resources, and that's really the goal here. Like Mr. Bell said, many of the people that we're dealing with, it's a struggle for them to get by every day. So, we're trying our best to recognize who we're dealing with and help them, and not just run them through the process.
Thank you, Brad.
Absolutely.
If there's no other questions on the overall program, I would like to touch on, item number, 16, which is considered the interlocal agreement, for, I put as a, software as a service, participation in tech share for Indigent Defense Department. As Mr. Anderson touched on, this is, the computer program that they have been working, the system that they've been working for a number of years now.
Yes, sir.
But it requires an updated agreement.
I make a motion to approve the interlocal agreement with Texture for the Indigent Defense Department.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Matthews to approve. We have a second from Commissioner Moore. Any further discussion on this interlocal agreement? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries.
Thank you.
Mr. Anderson, thank you so much for your time.
Will that, other employee that you're talking about in Copper Cove, will they be officing there or here?
There, we're trying to locate, Judge Miller and I have been working to locate some space, and I've visited down there a couple of times now, trying to find some space. We have we have at least a temporary area in the annex down there, basically with the mental health deputies, which would be a good connection point. And I met with the chief of police over in Cove, and they understand our needs are gonna be over there, so he's already on board with us being able to have our personnel come in and work with the JPs in their facility as well, so. I think we're close to able to have the solution to that, yes, sir.
Just didn't know if you had room
There
in there.
are a couple of options. I've initially talked with, Mr. Havelock, city manager for Copper Cove. One of the things with the program is access to, and I'm gonna mess this up, so my law enforcement people, please T-lets, inlets, chicklets, all those lets that go along, and it's information access, to, a person's criminal history. With the magistration process, the more information that we can consistently get to, whoever's magistrating that individual, JP or whoever, that's one of the goals of the program, is so that they get the same packet every time. And so with that, us being able to have access to inlets and keylets, although it's not a mandated requirement, I think overall from a program standpoint, we feel that would be good. The Copperas Cove Police Department has that access. So my initial conversation with Mr. Haviland is if there was an office space that was available that had, those connections already available to us, and they would be, willing to give us a little bit of space, that would be one of our, that's a good option. In talking with, the JPs in Copperas Cove, another option is that there is potentially some office space in the municipal court building, for Copperas Cove. And then from an internal resourcing, there's the potential for some space available, in the Cove Annex, which currently houses, juvenile and adult probation, as well as the Justice Center. I think probably being the fourth option out of all the space resources that we have right now. But so we kind of laid the foundation for that, and I turned it over to Mr. Anderson after we made the initial, link there to see what we could partner on, and kind of let him go forward with that. That was the methodology.
And so after talking with Cove PD and some of those, my individuals, the bond officers don't have to have direct access into that. We can have something pull this, so there's 4 different levels. We would be at level 2, just being able to look at the records. We don't need to access the records. So if they can work with us on providing that information, we don't actually have to have direct access to it. So we're kind of trying to work through that piece of it. But yes, part of the risk assessment would include looking at some of the criminal history and these kinds of things. So it's important for us to be able to see that.
Again, thanks, Mr. Hughes. Anything else on that item? Okay, moving on to item number 17, consider court order 2020-02, enrollment of Coryell County in the Texas Association of Counties Cybersecurity Training Course. A little bit of the information, I didn't have the order complete when we sent the packet out, but the background information on this is that out of a House bill, which I don't recall that particular number, there was a House bill in the last legislative session, which in fact modified Texas Government Code 2054.5191. It was effective June 14th of this past year, where previously any governmental employee that had access to a computer was supposed to have cybersecurity training. It has now become an annual requirement. In addition to that, the annual requirement must be a cybersecurity program that is certified by the Texas Department of Information Resources. So with that, the Texas Association of Counties worked with DIR to develop the program and get it certified. And because we are members of the Texas Association of Counties, this is a training program that would be no cost to our taxpayers. It does have the requirement, and this is a couple of reasons. It needs to be placed under a court order because there is the requirement that you enroll as a county. Individual departments cannot enroll. So they would have to comply with the guidelines that are set forward in this program, which are pretty simple, and I'll explain those in a minute. And then the second piece of that is there is a requirement for the County Commissioners Court to approve the enrollment of this training program. So with that, the basic requirement is that they are a government employee. They have an email address, which we're gonna have to, give it a couple of departments, because not every employee that has computer access has an email address, so we've got to touch that up. And then it's simply that the elected officials, department heads, or anybody in a supervisory position over someone using a computer, turns in that person's name, email address, and, their, work position within the county. We'll consolidate that list and submit it to, TAC, to get the county enrolled. This program becomes available, we can enroll at any time, but they're going to start emailing out, the training program, and that's their mechanism. As you enroll, they need your email, because you will get an individual email from TAC that says, this is, your training, your training package. Now I lost my thought. Okay, so, anyway, we comprise and we consolidate that list. We send it to TAC. We can roll it anytime, but they will start emailing out that training on, January 15th. Our suspense to be in compliance, with, Texas Government Code 2054.5191 is June 14th of 2020. Any questions?
So how do we ensure that everybody is going to do this?
Well, within the court order, there are 4 items under it, is that we are ordering, the county to enroll, participate in, and complete the Texas Association of County Cybersecurity Training. That all elected officials, department heads, and anyone having supervisory responsibility over any computer user furnished to the county the information required by TAC. All elected officials, department heads, and anyone having supervisory responsibility over any computer user provide monthly updates until the respective department is 100% compliant. And then all computer user employees of Coryell County complete the mandates cybersecurity training no later than June 14th.
Who is our individual that's going to oversee that? Who do you see that person being?
Well, typically it's our IT.
That's what it says,
Person.
your IT administrator.
Yes.
So, is that
We do not
you?
have an IT administrator. So it was, I was gonna use my office to compile this, as we, as we go forward and try to figure out what IT is gonna look like in the future. I'm more than confident that I can get some help from Mr. Harold as we ensure that we get everyone enrolled in training. Because the follow-on to this then, which we need to discuss a little bit later is, now what's the mechanism to sustain this? Because this is not one-time training. This becomes an annual requirement of any employee that we have, the way the statute is written right now, it's in perpetuity. So every year, we are going to have this same requirement going forward. It's the same thing with new hires that we have. So what's the mechanism? I'm gonna get with Mr. Roberts and talk with Ms. Weddle about coming up with a plan to present to the court to say this is what we think is the best way to go forward to ensure that any of those employees that have access to a computer.
We're gonna have to enter this into our employee handbook.
Yes, it needs to be something that's gonna be factored into the employee handbook, but I can't tell you I've got. Yes.
Can I interject something, Judge? At the SIPCOG level, we've been addressing this for a few months now. Cybersecurity is probably one of the most important aspects of what we're going to be doing going forward for Homeland Security. We have addressed this. It is the #1 threat on Fort Hood and for SIPCOG, and actually for the state of Texas. I just received a bulletin from DIR, and they're promoting this type of training for all the jurisdictions in the state of Texas, and actually at the national level, they're really pushing cybersecurity. So what it looks like in state, well, this is a good start, and Commissioner Matthews, being former DPS, understands that that was an annual requirement through DPS, is that everybody had to have computer security awareness. And that's an ongoing thing that, for a lot of the public health or public service entities in the state of Texas or across the nation. So, like I said, working with SITCOG, we have already got a discussion-based exercise next month in Copper's Cove at the fire station to address some of these issues and see what it looks like going forward. Now, this is step one of getting all the entities or all the jurisdictions online and the individuals aware of what cybersecurity is and how it safeguards our information from malware, ransomware, and a number of threats out there. So, this is step one, and it's very important that we implement this program. So, I didn't mean to interject too much there, Judge, I apologize.
Good. Anything else you wanna add? Questions, comments, concerns? Now, I'll be completely honest, I have not, done any research or, sought any information into any other, certified cyber, security training program out there. They said this is free.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, I like that word, free. It may not be the most convenient, but it's free. Went back and I looked through the budget, free is really good.
No issues with this court order, Brandon, that you said? Judge, I'll make that motion to approve court order, 2020-02.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Moore, to approve, a second from Commissioner Matthews. Any further discussion on court order 2020-02? Hearing none.
Start, Wednesday, we'll start getting.
I'm gonna send out the email so that you understand. I will send out the email to each of the department heads, so that they can start inputting that information into a spreadsheet. I think I gave you a copy of the information that's required in there, in the packet. It's not, it's just basic. As soon as they start sending that back to us, we'll get that compiled, and hopefully, within the next week to 10 days, we will have submitted all of our information to PAC, so that we can start receiving these emails back. I would say a week to 10 days, we should be involved. Any other questions on that? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. Item number 18, Coyle County proclamations. You'll see listed there, this is part of the School Board Recognition Month. To declare our appreciation to the members of the respective school boards in Copperas Cove, Evant, Gatesville, Jonesboro, and Oglesby. I believe the proclamation is relatively in compliance with what we've done in the past. And without reading the entire piece of it, the proclamation itself is that, be it hereby proclaimed that the Commissioners Court of Coyle County do hereby declare the month of January 2020 as School Board Recognition Month. Declare our appreciation to the members of Copperas Cove, well, all the school boards, reading off the first one. And urge all citizens to recognize the dedication and hard work of local school board members, and in working with school board members to mold an education system that meets the needs of both today's and tomorrow's children.
Motion to approve the proclamation 2020-01, 2, 3, and 4, and 5, Judge. Second, school board recognition.
A motion from, Commissioner Jones, a second from Commissioner Ashby. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. Caveat onto that, I would assume we will have a similar, presentation that we did last year. You took Event, You had Oglesby, Gatesville. You wanna swap with me? You take Jonesboro this year and I'll take Copper Cove. That covers the 5. Okay. And after the meeting, we stick around and get signatures on all these as well as some other things. Okay. Moving on to item number 19, consider request from the sheriff's office to declare the following vehicles as salvage to be sold: 2004 Crown Victoria and a 2014 Ford F-150. I'm not sure, but I think if we hold on to that Crown Victoria for about 6 more years, 20 years it becomes an antique, and then that's a collector's item, is it not? I mean, is it? I don't wanna jump into any decisions, but, there is a potential that.
Motion to approve that, Judge. Item number 19.
Okay.
We're still running some equipment that's a double classic.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, I think there's some added research. We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Jones,
Second.
second from Commissioner Moore. Any further discussion on item number 19?
Are those on our yard, when the ones that are out there?
I don't know that for sure.
I think the owner does.
Yeah, we have some out there.
Do you have all of the sheets though on everything that's out there right now? Those gov.deal bid sheets?
We just got an area we stack it all in.
Okay. I'll get with you on,
They just show up.
I'll get with you on who's, what, we need to, so y'all understand, for Mr. Latham to be able to put those on the gov deals,
It says them both out there.
that we've got to, he's got an information sheet that he needs. In the past, we have not done a good job in supporting him in getting those information sheets that he needs.
Yeah, we just call the sheriff department, try to get them, fill them out for us half the time.
So,
We just have to really know if they're running, if anything's wrong with them, we have to declare that on gov deals.
So in the future, what I'd like to do is start requesting from, especially with the vehicle piece of it.
Does Road and Bridge answer those questions if they're running or is anything wrong with them? Does Joyce answer those questions?
We have to on gov deals.
I think they put it on that side.
Okay.
Yeah, if we don't know, we just put unknown, and that kinda hurts the value of it sometimes, or, if we don't.
So as part of the declaration of salvage, if we can start getting those sheets submitted to us, so that, after we do this, we can immediately hand those sheets off, and he's got that information, doesn't have to track the parts down after the fact. Anyway, okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? All those in favor, declaring those salvage, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. Item number 20, discussion to possibly seek bids for a camera system in the jail due to elevated civil suits.
I'll go get it.
Sheriff.
Sorry about that, y'all, that's what we were just talking about in there.
Sheriff, you wanting to seek bids for camera system in the jail?
Yes, sir, that's what we were just talking about, we have so many, and Mr. Belton and I have had this conversation, we have so many blind spots in our jail, and our camera system that's in the jail now is antiquated, sometimes it'll record, sometimes it won't, sometimes when it does record, you have a week to retrieve the data. It's so outdated, and there have been instances in our current civil lawsuits where we needed some video and couldn't retrieve it because it had already expired and gone away. And we're talking within just a matter of, weeks. Our concern is, or the way we look at it is, if we can spend a little money now to upgrade this, and I understand we have discussions about a new jail and all that down the road, but, maybe just to patch what we have. Maybe some additional cameras, and the downside to that is trying to find cameras that are now compatible with our antique system. Some something with some movability to take the blind spots out, where our control can pan the camera to look. And the most important thing is the ability to store it for more than 7 days. Mr. Harrell was just talking to us about a system they had done in the, Justice of the Peace Office. Maybe something that we can look into. My deal is I just wanted to bring it to the court to kind of get it on our radar, to see if there's any way that it would be possible for us to start outsourcing, trying to find some bids, or try to find some, solid information on what it would cost, to patch what we have.
How long has the system that you've got been in there?
I believe it's 10 years.
Has it been that long? I can't remember when
And
it was approved.
we had to patch some the first year I took office, and the guy said, this is all I've got. They don't make this anymore, the system is not serviceable anymore. So we've been kind of on a wing and a prayer, and there's a couple of instances where it would have been nice to have some audio, or nice to have had a camera in that blind spot that would have took the doubt out of, anything, And I'll tell you, it's so trivial, there's a case going right now, without speaking much about it, there's a little over 2 seconds that there wasn't a video of these individuals escorting, and that 2 seconds is what's got it in litigation. So, that's how important it is. I mean, you're getting down to 2 seconds of video. And our current system, it skips, we've had that battle where, well, it ended here, it started here. I can't help that, that's the camera, it does it. Our cameras are set up where if there's no motion, there's no camera. The moment somebody moves, then it'll start recording. And without the ability to upgrade it, and make it mesh with the current system we have, it's kind of put us in a bind. So all I wanna do is, have the court's permission to be able to reach out to folks and just see what it would cost, or if anybody has any ideas of how we could, do it as cheap as possible.
Is there any chance of a system of body mics where each employee, or body cameras, each employee, just like a deputy, you
We
take
do.
it out as.
We already have that in place.
Okay, that's in
We already
place.
have that in place, but here's the thing is, not every time there's a staff member down.
No, I agree, I just,
If you have an inmate jump on another inmate,
right,
what have you. Those that, talking about recidivism, those that keep coming back, they understand.
Right.
The blind spots and all of that, and it's kind of been a crippling thing for us in a couple instances. Anyway, all I wanna do is be able to let this just be the starting point to try to figure what it would cost, and try to get as many people involved to outsource and see if we can get it done as cheap as possible, and then bring it back to the court and see if it's a viable solution to what we have. I mean, I understand it, if we move into another jail, this is a temporary fix, and we're kinda hung on that double-edged sword of, well, we don't wanna spend too much, but we need it, so. Any help that anybody can bring forward on this, I would be more than willing to sit and entertain, because I wanna do it as cheap as possible, because I don't wanna waste taxpayer dollars. But then you look at it, well, it'd be pretty cheap to put it in, considering what a lawsuit might cost. And this day and time, and Mr. Bell can attest to this, without a video, it didn't happen. I personally sat as a witness and testified, and because I didn't have a video, me being the highest ranking law